I'm Brent Watkinson. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about using a limited palette in your paintings. And you can use this with traditional oils, like I'm going to show you here today, or even with a digital paint application. In other words, if you're using Painter or Photoshop, you can still be thinking about a limited palette. The reason for limited palettes are twofold. Number one, you instantly get and retain color harmony in your paintings because all of the colors that you're mixing and using on your paint come from a very limited supply, and usually when you're mixing colors with a limited palette, you're constantly using small percentages of almost all of the other colors in the color you're mixing. So all your colors relate automatically. The other reason is you have very few choices. In other words, if you put out 30 colors on your palette, how can you decide what you want to do? Which colors that you pick to mix what? And then you can't keep track of how you mixed a color previously. So if you use a limited palette, that helps you with color harmony and your decision making. A lot of students think that using a limited palette is unprofessional or it's cheating for some reason. Nothing could be further from the truth. Using a limited palette is very professional. It's very smart, and professional artists have been doing it since the beginning of art history. I used this particular limited palette almost exclusively for 25 years. It really works well. What I have is a tube of cadmium yellow medium. I have cadmium red light, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and of course a tube of white as well. The reason I have two reds is because alizarin crimson is a cool red and cadmium red light is a warm red. I could never find that perfect red that met all my needs when I was trying to paint, so I use those two reds. This will also teach you color theory, and you don't even have to be aware of it. It's almost like magic. You start mixing up these colors, and because you have few choices, you can just start grabbing colors and experimenting, and you're learning color theory and how it works, and you're not even acutely aware of it, but it will happen. Now, there were certain times when I needed a color in a painting that I could not achieve with these particular colors. No problem. I would just get something close to the color I needed. Maybe it was a really bright teal green, or let's say I was painting a seascape on the Hawaiian Islands or something, and I needed a really bright, wonderful translucent teal. Well, I can't get that with these colors, so I would just add that color. That's okay. I still have my limited palette, and a lot of times I would purposefully add another color that I called a guest color. Sometimes I would add yellow ochre as a guest color. A lot of times sap green. I remember using a lot of burnt sienna as my guest color. These colors are very pure, they're very high in pigment, and they're really good colors to use. Also, you can virtually pick any 3 or 4 colors in your paint box and start doing limited palettes right away. That may not be the best idea to do, but it will get you started, and you'll instantly have color harmony and make better decisions with a limited palette. And speaking of palettes, you have to mix your paint on something. What I have here is something that I have several versions of in my own studio, and I have several different sizes. This is a rather small one that I use for travel, and it's basically a sheet of glass, and on the back is a piece of wood. This actually happens to be a panel of masonite, like I would do a painting on. You can also use you could use plywood or any kind of surface that you can sandwich a piece of glass on top of, and I tape around the edges, but before I tape it down, I put a piece of gray neutral paper under the glass. So it's a layer of glass, then the paper, then the wood, and then I tape it all together. The reason I chose gray paper to put underneath the glass is because if I put white underneath here, which would be fine, when you put white paint on white paper, you can't really see what value it is. Because I chose a neutral value and neutral temperature of gray paper, when I put white on this palette, the white paint looks light. If I put something really dark like ultramarine blue on this palette, it looks dark. When I mix a middle value, it almost disappears on here. So this kind of helps me gauge value a little bit. Again, you can also use something very convenient. This is called a paper palette or a disposable palette, because as you can see around the edges, it's white. And after you use up all the mixing areas, or you get done with your painting, what have you, you just simply grab the edge of this palette paper and peel it off, and you have a brand new piece underneath. That's really convenient. I like to use these also. Now, these can be purchased in the color white, and also you can get them in gray. So remember, it doesn't matter what you mix your paint on, whether it's white or gray or brown. You could make a palette out of a piece of wood as well. That's very traditional. That's what Rembrandt used. This surface doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is the paint you put on the canvas, because the color and the value that you mix here means nothing until you see it on the canvas in relationship to all the other colors and values that you have. But this is a really great palette that I've used for many, many years. I have several different sizes in my studio, and when the paint dries, all I have to do is scrape it off with a razor, and it's really easy to clean.